Cafe Freedom. It's Cafe Freedom coming to you live from the heart of the Great White North, the heart of the true North, strong and free. This is your fun style, freedom podcasting, radio style freedom podcasting coming to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, reaching coast to coast all across Canada, the United States, and the rest of the world. Come on in, folks. We're going to have fun but red pilling conversations. You can also find us on Zeno.fm. Go to Freedom Fighter Radio, Zeno.fm. You can download our app for free by signing up at www.ojtv.ca. That's www.ojtv.ca. Sign up for your free download of our Freedom Fighter Radio app. It's Friday, the 3rd of March. It's 0 degrees, feels like -7 in Toronto, Ontario. .39 kilometers per hour northeast wind gust, 80% of humidity, visibility at 24 kilometers. Sunrise this morning was 6:51 a.m. The sunset will be at 6:08 p.m. tonight. Pressure is 101.7 kPa, 400 meter of ceiling, and wind gusts of 48 kilometers an hour. Folks, it's Canada. You cannot predict the weather, whether you like it or not. You just have to be ready all the time and bundle up. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. This is Cafe Freedom. This is the fun freedom podcasting. And as usual, I'm having my coffee. And you are having a wonderful morning with our morning jazz and a couple of puff of red pills. This is Cafe Freedom. Let's get this show started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning. This is Cafe Freedom. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. And what a wonderful morning. It's our last day of the Cafe Freedom episode for this week. And we'll see you Monday morning for the next episode. But today we are going to have a little bit of chit-chat on the current status of our freedom in Toronto, in Ontario, in Canada, in the United States, in North America, and the rest of the world. It's somewhat biblical when you listen to that kind of phrase, because that's how the gospel of Christ have spread during the days of Christ when he used to walk the face of the earth with his disciples. They started in Samaria, Judea, Samaria, and to the rest of the world. And that's how we're going to spread freedom all over our nations, our regions, our continent, and our countries. That's how it's going to happen, folks. All right. So, good morning. Good morning. This is Cafe Freedom. Please share, share, share. We're doing a radio style again today. As you know, from time to time, yours truly is not ready to be facing the camera early this morning. Just kind of have that feel that I'm still waking up, and I just don't want that studio light blasting on my face from time to time. But I cannot let day a schedule for Cafe Freedom go by without touching base with our freedom base, not only here in Toronto, Ontario, but throughout North America and the rest of the world. As you know, freedom rings worldwide, and I'll credit thanks to the tyrants, the technocrats, the social engineers who tried to lock us down, and they try their bid for world domination since 2020. But we have seen it coming, folks. Those who are red pilled and those who have been paying attention for the longest time, even during 2017, 2016, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of parents from the school where my daughter goes to. We had many, many conversations about UN Agenda 2030, used to be called Agenda 21, Sustainable Development Agenda. But you know what I'm surprised of? Last Wednesday morning, we were broadcasting one of the very, very old documentary from Alex Jones from Infowars that he published around 2006, 2007. As you know, Alex Jones' freedom fighting careers was kicked off by the 9/11 events in New York City. And from that point forward, he really got attention of many people as he have somewhat predicted that this was about to happen. And well, I'll be honest, a lot of people really shuns Alex Jones, the name Alex Jones and Infowars, and calls it conspiracy theories because they've been following the marching orders of the mainstream media and the legacy media, the mainstream media as we call them. They have really put on a lot of dollars to campaign to smear his name and frame him as a conspiracy theory. And unfortunately, many of the members of our freedom community still kind of believe the legacy media narrative that Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist that cannot be trusted. All right, I'm trying to multitask here, folks, because as you know, we are heavily shadow banned on many of the platforms. That's why I gave that invitation the other day, or I think it's already about last week already, about a week ago, that I'd like you to really to download the Freedom Fighter Radio. First of all, with the Freedom Fighter Radio, I'm able to play some of the patriotic music that we cannot play here, copyrighted materials on social media. Even in our freedom platforms such as Rumble and BitChute and Gab TV, because they don't have that provision. But the Zeno.fm, the place where they host the Freedom Fighter Radio app, we can play music there because they have licensing arrangements with copyrighted materials. So I like to play, in between little conversations and talks in sharing of insights. I like to play some of the very modern patriotic music and slash gospel and country. It's very, very inspiring, and I love to play some of those. Even the music and the songs that were born from the pandemics, they are very, very good songs. Unfortunately, we cannot play them here on social media, but on the Freedom Fighter Radio app, that's hosted by and or nested within the Zeno.fm uh, server. Zeno has arrangements. We pay a little bit of dues to Zeno, and then Zeno has the licensing that allows us to play. And I actually am contemplating on creating a new channel for business so that we can fund the truth here, fund the freedom. Because to be honest, not too many of our freedom fighters have heed the call of funding the truth just yet. Well, maybe people will wake up when we're right there on the really right on the edge of being locked down and imprisoned by the tyrants, the technocrats, and the social engineers. All right, in 3, 2, 1, I'm about to launch the crosspost, and so we are going to be heard as well from 20 different pages on Facebook. However, Facebook is not really our home that we're counting on to build our audience members. To be honest, I don't see any more traction, even though we have a combined 100,000 followers all across a Facebook platform. We're not getting 90% of our loyal followers and listeners have been private messaging me, telling me, Joe, I just saw a snippet of this and a snippet of that, and a broadcast that are 6 days, 7 days, 8 days old, and it's only now that I'm seeing this on my timeline. Why am I not getting notification whenever you're live? And I said, well, one reason is because you're still tuned in to the Freedom Fighter Radio through Facebook, and Facebook has decidedly shadow banned and silenced our voice. And so 100,000 followers, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are notified when we go live. So why do we count on Facebook? We're not going to count on Facebook anymore to get notified. So basically, I'm here just to put a marker on, and so people maybe 5 days, 6 days, 7 days later, they'll find that we were here, and they will look for the full broadcast in one of our free speech platforms. But if you want to be notified for sure, you have to go to our Brighteon, our Brighteon channel, which this platform on Facebook doesn't even allow me to put the links on to share to our audience members here. But that's fine. We found a way to kind of circumnavigate. And if you are interested to be notified on Facebook for sure, you have to join one of our group chats on Messenger, because that's one of the only ways that we can reach our current 100,000 followers on Facebook. But I gave that invitation to please come and download the Freedom Fighter Radio app, and also go to one of our free speech platforms such as Brighteon, um, Rumble. We are active on Rumble. Rumble's not ultimately our goal, but Rumble is one of them. We're on BitChute. We're on Gab TV. We're not live on Gab TV. We're live on Odyssey, brand new tube. Again, I said BitChute already, right? And we're working on our Rufkin channel as well. So last night we were scheduled to have Freedom Fighter Radio regular broadcasting, but yours truly were actually having a big dinner at a local pickle barrel restaurant. Last night we were celebrating the Mrs. Birthday. She's catching up to yours truly. Turned 49. We were there, and I usually have, a meaty order whenever we go to one of these restaurants, such as like steak or a rib, a full rack of ribs. Last night I told my wife, okay, because I'm going to park the car, why don't you go and order for me? She got me this Lobster and shrimp linguine. Well, I'm not disappointed, folks. It's pretty good. Pickle Barrel is not one of your fancy restaurants in Toronto, but it does the job for birthdays and you know from time to time when you have a little extra cash to have some dinner as a family. And my daughter specifically asked to go to Pickle Barrel last night because she had an experience of one of their her favorite menu, fish and chips. She developed a love for fish and chips. Remember coming to Canada in 1993 and started making new friends in my new church. One of our favorite things to do after church when I hang out with my friends were go and get some fish and chips. It's very new to me. Back in 1993, we didn't have fish and chips back in the Philippines. Fish and chips to Filipinos is like poutine to Americans. It's not a very common dish, but once I had a taste of fish and chips with that delicious tartar sauce, oh man, I'm hooked. And so my daughter having love for fish and chips is a something we share together. And one new thing my daughter introduced me last night to a series on Netflix that she's been following is this Korean TV series called The Amazing Little Attorney Woo or something like that. It's about a lawyer who is a female lawyer who is autistic, but her gift was memory and reading. Since she was 5 years old, she's been reading law books. It's interesting. I saw episode one last night, and well, I think I'm gonna follow through. And another something that me and my daughter could share. There's not a lot of things that daddies and daughter do share. I'll be honest. Before we found out that she was a girl, my wife's what do you call that again? MRI thing to detect the gender of the child. Well, honestly, I was hoping for a boy, and then when I found out that she was a girl, I said this to all my friends many times that I admitted. I said, there was like very very short, many a few seconds of thought of like how I wish I have a boy, right? Um, because even as a teenager, when I how I imagine myself to be a dad, I imagine my own being a dad as how I imagined my dad was a dad, and my relationship with my dad. So I only know how to be. I only have my own personal experience growing up, a daddy son relationship, and so I thought, that's what I'm gonna have when I become a dad. I'm gonna have a dad and boy relationship. But daddy daughter, I don't know how to make that work, right? I just never thought, how do you make daddy daughter relationship work? I never had an imagination growing up. But you know what? When when after I realized, well, that's what the Lord gave me, and I'm gonna make the best of the daughter. Remember, some of you know that we were married for 10 years, almost to the date before my wife got pregnant. So we were waiting 10 years before our first child. So when the Lord gave us a child, I'm so happy, and I can tell you now that I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I'd still want to have a boy someday in the future if the Lord bless us with a boy, because well, someday my daughter's gonna get married and she will take on the name of her husband. And I know that many North American and other cultures insist on keeping their last name and not even taking on the husband's last name. I would insist that you would, because I think that's a godly thing to do. But that will be the end of my line if I don't have a boy. But if the Lord wants me to continue our last name on earth, God will give me a boy someday in the future, and God knows what He's doing. But Daddy and daughter relationships kind of tricky because I can see that mommy daughter relationship. There's a lot of things that they can share, but daddy daughter, there's not a lot of things that daddies and daughter can share together. They daddies cannot give makeup advice or how to curl your hair and be beautiful. And I can see that mommy and daughters, they have a lot of things to share and they have a lot of fun together because the daughters look up to their moms, and they think to themselves, and I can I've heard it many times. Someday I want to be like mommy, right? Same as what you would expect from a boy when they look up to their dads. Someday I would like to be like my dad. That's how daughters are to their moms. Someday I want to be like. It starts with little things like how their mom dresses up and how their moms, um, you know, um, do their hair and do their makeup. And from that point on, I think it's called imprinting, right? That's called imprinting. This is a God given natural thing to observe, and that is something I celebrate myself. I don't fight that. I Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to adjust some levels here. Yeah, there's something I don't fight, and I allow that to happen because that's God breathed phenomenon. That's pretty natural. However, that's not really what I want to talk to you about. When we were being served last night at the pickle barrel, I had a little problem with the waiter because first of all, he was talking really fast and he was trying to be funny, and nobody's. I'm usually very, very friendly with servers wherever we go because, as you know, I am the ordinary Joe. I connect with every ordinary members of our society, especially the service industry, because yours truly have worked in many sectors in the service industry myself. So I see myself as equal to all of those working in the blue collar service industry sectors, and I'm very friendly with them because I see myself and with them, and I want to be treated with respect and as a human, not just as a server of any sort. But this particular server last night, he's a little bit cocky, but that's fine. He's a little bit cocky. But my problem was he was talking so fast with a thick accent, and he has a mask on, right? So I was thinking, um, we keep on going back and forth trying to make him say again what he was trying to say. And he would say it so fast with a thick, um, you know, um, ethnic accent. And he would laugh at his own jokes, but we couldn't get it. But I was about to laugh, but not because of his jokes. I'm just kind of about to laugh at the same time annoyed with the situation that we are in. But he has his mask on, and that's a problem because he already is talking too fast with a thick accent, and the mask is muffling his voice. But and I said it many times, I don't have a problem with mask when used in the proper way. And let me reiterate why I think we shouldn't um, fall for the actual intention of the social engineers here. So initially, the social engineers have made the mandatory masking of society. We know that it's not because of health purposes. We know that it's not because it slows the spread. We know already that, and many studies have even proven our original thought and the box itself. Most of these masks, when you buy a box of mask, The box itself will put a disclaimer on the box that it does not prevent people from getting COVID. It says right on the box, right? So we know that, and we know that a social engineer's purpose of the mask is a symbol of compliance, because compliance is most important in the 2020, 2021, 2022 lockdown events. And even now, after the pandemic is totally over, the aftershock, the aftershock of the social engineering campaign is still lingering on. But let me clarify again for some people who don't understand why I am not full throttle campaigning against masking for people who are continuing to wear masks. Um, Although I am totally still very vocal against wrong use of mask and masking the entire society, even those who don't need to mask, or masking the healthy ones. I'm still totally against that. But trying to distance ourselves from people who mask or vilify people who are still masking does not really forward our freedom campaign. The reason is, I know and I can see, well, I think you can see too, if you're totally red pilled and you have been paying attention for the longest time, that you will see that the rift between the mask and the unmask is also an accomplishment. The you versus them, us versus them effect of us who knows exactly the intention in the masking and how we treat or how we distance ourselves or maybe ridicule people who are brainwashed about masking. The way we have the rift between us and them is also exactly what the social engineers want to accomplish. So we could say initially the idea for them who have been who had designed this social engineering experiment is to show eventually that we, the rest of humanity who comply, are the slaves, and the elites who have brought down this mandate on humanity, they don't need to comply. We are the slaves and they are the masters. Basically, the masking has become a symbol of slavery, and we know that through history, and we shared it here on the show, and even the earlier version of the show, free Power Geopolitics. So those photos of in history how many of the slaves were masked or something to cover their face as a symbol of slavery. That was the original intention, but the side effect of the intention of dividing us versus them, between elites and the commoners, is now that we who have woken up to the truth and those who continue to be slaves to the brainwashing, the division sometimes cause physical altercations, and I think we should not allow that to happen, right? So when I look at people who mask outdoors, or they put on a mask alone driving their cars, or even I've seen a couple of people double masking even now in elevators, and or we know that doesn't make sense, and we know that they are doing this because of fear and compliance. We know that. But come to think of it, last night my experience with this guy who almost touched my food with his finger and trying to be funny, and I remember prior to the pandemic seasons that I've been offended by certain servers, of being so talkative, and they don't realize how their spit is spraying all over the place and it's falling on my food. But because I see myself as one of the ordinary folks, and I always pledge allegiance and brotherhood and brother and sisterhood. How do I say that to a sister? A brother to a sisterhood? That I'm gonna always look out for the little guys, in my little ways, in the little ways that I can. Always look out for the little guys and always defend the little guys. And so, if a server inadvertently spray as they talk, their saliva is spraying out from their mouth, even if they do it unintentionally, right? It is very offensive and it's very disgusting. And you will end up asking for them to send the food back to the kitchen and get you a new batch, right? But I know that if that happens, the server will end up paying for that food. Yeah, she might be able to take it home. He or she might be able to pack it and bring home, but the owner most likely will make him or her pay for that food that she accidentally spit on for trying to entertain you as your server. So that kind of worked last night, that the server was masked, because I can imagine how this guy would end up spitting on our food because he's like stooping over and trying to point out some of the ingredients of the food, almost touched my food with his finger. Well, he's doing his best. He's trying we cannot fault people when they're trying to do their best, but they inadvertently not, you know, pleasing their customers. But I also said many times that when people are are using mask in the proper way, I actually thumbs up for that. I thumbs up for that. As prior to pandemics, we know how some people don't care. They sneeze on you, cough on you in the subway or in the elevators, and or you know, just people don't know how to be considerate of other people. But having said that, last night I also noticed as soon as we got off, and my wife and my daughter, they love to walk around the mall after dinner. Usually when we are celebrating someone's birthday, we go to a restaurant within Yorkdale Mall so that they can have a little walk around the mall right after. And so that's what we did last night. And then uh as you know, I don't really like malls, so I would let my family walk around and I'll find a place where I can sit down and you know uh listen to a podcast or read my Kindle books. But yesterday I walk around on my own. I'm following them around, but I'm not following them on the same pace. I'm just really walking slow because I don't always go to the shopping malls. And I noticed that the Yorkdale Mall up here in Toronto seems to have improved in terms of like the physical appearance of the mall. There's so many um, uh, renovations that they've done in that mall. I have not been there for a long time, so I noticed. Wow, this is almost it almost looks like a different mall than the last time I was here at. And but one very striking observation I saw when I was there is that there is there's a lot of people who wear masks. There's a lot of people who wear masks, but the striking difference between the mask and the unmasked, most of the servers, most of the people who are the customer service employees, all masked. They're all masked. Any store you go to, or any boutique, or over the counter, open, open style, like just a counter open, kind of version of the shops, where you just line up to the counter and pick up your ice cream or whatnot. Every single one of the servers are masked, and the general public, I could say that a little bit more than half now are not masked, but there are still a lot of people who are masked in the general public. But all of the servers are masked. And now, what does that tell you? What does that tell you when you see that? I feel like they kind of accomplished what they set out to do, the social engineers I'm talking about. I think what they have done here is create that demarcation line between the servers and those who are served, therefore bringing in the brand new culture of slavery and the old-fashioned, robber barons and elites, royalties versus commoners. I think this pandemic has actually accomplished something in terms of dividing the people between the server class, the middle class, the upper class, the elite, and that's how they are going to conquer the rest of us. Divide and conquer. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back after these short messages. Just because it's a seller's market, it does not mean that it's not a good time for you, the buyer, to get into your dream home. The seller's market presents a unique opportunity not available during the buyer's market. Find out for yourself. Get the professional advice of an experienced, honest, Christian freedom-loving real estate professional. Call my friend, our sister in the fight for freedom, Madam Cheryl Severance of Century 21 at 905-646-2121, or check out her website at cheryl-severance-c21.ca.
Fund the truth. Fund the unacceptable fringe views of the Freedom Fighter radio broadcast. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada and also donate $3 per month and help us keep going and pushing back against the lies, the hate, and the fear-mongering of the legacy media. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Your $3 per month will help us set fire on the lies of the tyrants, the technocrats, and the internationalist social engineers. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada.
Did you hear about the children's cough syrup shelf? They are mostly empty in the drugstores. Are you concerned? Do you feel the need to stockpile? As the world heads towards uncertainty, with every nation meeting its own challenges, Larks Medical are staged and ready to respond. Go to larksmedical.com. Provide them with your name, phone number, and email, and Larks will respond at their earliest possible availability to find solutions and ensure ample supply for your needs. Or email them directly at info@larksmedical.com. That's info@larksmedical.com.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary, the leader of the Independence Party of Alberta. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Welcome back, folks. This is Cafe Freedom. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. Well, how I wish we can play some of our patriotic, modern-day patriotic music. We cannot do that on social media, but if you tune in to our Freedom Fighter radio app, you can hear that our intermissions are all patriotic songs. Because we have on Zeno FM, there's licensing that allows copyrighted music to be played, because licensing for those copyrighted music dues are being paid. So come and download the Freedom Fighter Radio app on www.ojtv.ca. www.ojtv.ca. Have you had your morning coffee yet? My coffee has kind of turned cold now because I had the window open here. So today it's 0 degrees. Tonight it will continue to be 0 degrees. But Saturday will be 3 degrees, light snow. On Sunday, and we're talking about Toronto weather here, folks. Sunday will be 4 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. Monday will be light snow at 2 degrees. Tuesday would be scattered flurries at -1 degree. A mix of sun and clouds on Wednesday, 0 degrees. Thursday, mainly cloudy. And Friday, mainly cloudy. But that's Canadian weather for you folks. No complaining about it. Even the cold weather can bring fun if you decide to have fun and joy even during winter. You know, folks, when I first came to Canada in 1993, because I grew up I was 21. Wait, let me calculate. No, I was 20 years old in 1993. I was exactly 20 years old. I was 1973. I was 1973 person. I turned 21. Wait, let me. I came here December in 93. I can't remember anymore. My birthday is December 9th, so I think I might have turned 21 in Canada. But I was born 1973, so 83 I was 10 years old. 93 I was 20 years old. That was the first time I came to Canada. It's 1993. I was 20. And because I grew up 20 years of my life, I grew up with no winter, no snow. Snow was very exciting for me and my siblings. Our entire family was like so excited to see snow for the first time. So for a couple of years there, when I was new in Canada for maybe 3 or 4 years, always looking forward to winter. Always looking forward to snow. As that was exciting. It was brand new. And then, it's only maybe on the 5th year when I started getting annoyed by snow. But if you're new to something and it's brand new, it feels like, hey, uh, you know, if you have that attitude that something that most people are annoyed with, but you have an attitude that this is an opportunity to enjoy something that more than half of the population of the planet doesn't have an opportunity to enjoy snow in their parts of the world. If you have a positive attitude towards winter, winter can be fun. Winter can be joyful. It's what you make of it. Anyway, folks, for this segment, I want to talk to you a little bit about microeconomy because we talk about this on a full episode many weeks ago. Can't remember when. But I suggested that, if we, the members of the freedom community, do business with each other, we can actually kind of create our own microeconomy. So, as many of you know, from the onset, I launched off Freedom Podcasting middle 2021. Just after the American election. Was the American election 21 or 2020? I think the American election was December 2020. Or sorry, January 2021, right? And then after Joe Biden has been sworn in, and we felt, many of us felt how blatantly the American election was stolen. Months later, a couple of months later, that's when I launched off the initially the Power Drill Politics, and then which morphed into the Freedom Fighter Radio. I had a co-host on Power Drill Politics. Richard Rupp was a long time, almost a lifelong liberal operative, and then he crossed over to the conservatives because of things that he saw within the Liberal Party that kind of turned his stomach, especially his encounter with Justin Trudeau himself. And so when I met him, he was then a conservative operative, right? The federal conservatives. And then 2021 ended, and we were contemplating on launching a new season 2022, but it just didn't happen because he got very busy with the local election too. He was adopted by the New Blue Party as their chief strategist for their campaign, and so that took all of his year actually tied up to that. So we're not able to launch another season of Power Trip Politics. So I had to go on my own. Actually, 2022, I was thinking of shutting down the video podcasting and going underground, because that was the time when the first, before the last federal election, that was the first time that BLC 11 was introduced, and it looked like it was going to pass the first time. Now we know in hindsight that the uh, the Senate shut down BLC 11 on the first attempt, but now we found out that it looks like it's gonna be law in Canada. So while my co-host Richard Rupp was being so tied up on his job as a campaign strategist for the New Blue Party, I was also contemplating on going underground, because I feel like you know freedom podcasters and freedom digital broadcasters like yours truly will be the targets for Justin Trudeau when he gets his way. Um, I don't know why I kind of veered off to that. What I want to talk to you about is parallel economy, because to fight international agenda, the way we fight international agenda is by attacking all of the fruits of their agenda locally, resisting globalist agenda in the local level is the way to go, because we don't have, that's the only way, and it's actually the most effective way to push back against the internationalists, the World Economic Forum, the Build Back Better, the Great Reset. The best and only way to fight internationalist agenda is to fight it locally, because that's what they're hoping for, is for local, um, that they can tie up with local technocrats and tyrants in the local level to line up with them and to impose on us. But we in the local level, we're still 99%. So if we can wake up the rest of our neighbors, our friends and our family and church mates and friends from work, if we can wake them up on the local level, then the internationalist agenda ends right there. And so the biggest threat in the next coming years, and it's probably here now, I don't know how far advanced their agenda is when it comes to digital ID, and we know that digital ID's purpose is for the digital economy, the social credit score, right? The digital currency. That's what they're pushing for. Well, that's why I've been reaching out to a lot of members of the freedom community who runs their own business, and I'm giving away free ad spots on the show, and hopefully you will be supporting our freedom businesses so that they can in turn support the show as well. And we already have, although we majority of our odd spots are still free, but we have some of our odd spots advertiser are now paying dues, or helping and sponsoring the show financially. So there's a little help coming in, but it's not enough. And okay, I remember the reason I brought up when we launched Freedom Fighter Radio, or the early version of it, the Power Drill Politics, in mid 2021, or actually first quarter 2021. That's when we started our freedom podcasting. Is from the onset, I created a Patreon account, patreon.com/OJTV Canada, right? And you can see that even right now on the ticker tape on the bottom of the screen. Although this is radio style podcasting today, on social media, we still have the digital video version of the radio with the banner on the left side and ticker tape on the bottom, because social media does not allow just like a photo. It has to be it cannot be a static video. It has to be a moving video if we are going to broadcast even just audio radio style on social media. Has to move. So those who are listening to this show on social media, you can look at the screen and you can still see right now it says Spiritual War on the banner, right? And we have the American flag and the Canadian flag alternating for the Freedom Fighter Radio America and Freedom Fighter Radio Canada. And on the bottom of the screen is the ticker tape that says "Give us stars, 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 fund the truth." It used to say for $3 a month. Please help us reach many more people with the freedom message. There's a few people who responded to that, and I thought that you know I rather everybody chip in a little bit so that it doesn't become a burden, because we were all struggling, especially when everything was shut down 2021, 2020, 2021, 2022. Everybody was struggling. A lot of people took the CERB. I didn't take a cent of CERB. I thought I'd rather depend on the freedom community to help fund the truth. So I didn't take a cent of CERB. I don't want to be indebted to the technocrats, right? And so I'm bringing this up because at that time, the only access I had to create a structure where people who wants to give to the show on an auto donate small amount, $1.50. Right now I just changed it to $1.50, but that was for many years it was $3 a month that I were asking for. Only a handful, maybe around 20 people responded to that call. And many of them have dropped off already from funding the truth on a regular basis. The idea was we need thousands of people, at least a couple of thousands, to actually fund the operation, fund the broadcast, maybe hire a writer or a producer on the show, and also replace my income so that I can focus on it 100%. But we need about a couple of thousand of Patreon givers to maintain an operation with, a working capital, an operating capital of about 3,000 a month, right? Well, if we have a couple of thousand giving, if it was $3 that people were giving, we need about a couple of thousands to make that 6,000 a month revenue
that pays for the platform plus the replace my income, and also maybe hire a producer, a writer, a researcher in one person. All that all that position in one person, a part-time. That was the idea when we launched off the patreon.com/OJTV Canada. We didn't have a lot of response, but that's fine. There's a lot of things that needs to be done, I guess, to gain the trust of the people. I thought, at this time we have already proven that, because the more money we have, then the more ability I can do for pre-production and increase the quality of the show and whatnot. But I think now in hindsight, maybe the Lord's not allowing the increase on our our donors subscriber on Patreon, because apparently Patreon still one of the um Patreon apparently has canceled many freedom truthers in the past, who are whose listeners are supporting these freedom podcasters and freedom digital broadcasters and truthers, heralds, harbingers, if we can call them that. um Relying on Patreon is not a good thing, because if right now, I guess because I'm small on Patreon, it doesn't get their attention. But eventually I found out that many who has grown big on Patreon, and their listeners have been supporting them faithfully through Patreon, have been canceled by Patreon eventually. So Patreon and PayPal, I guess, are not very different from each other. So I'm looking into this other. Um, I'm very new to it, so I don't know. Right now, we are still gonna stay on Patreon until I find an alternative. But an alternative I'm looking at right now here. I actually have the page open, and I want to talk to you about this, because our parallel economy is the way to push back against the digital ID and the digital um, the build back better great reset economy that the internationalist wants to roll out. The actual name for the new economy is the New International Economic Order, which I talked to you about. You can find that term is in the 1979 book of Zbigniew Brzezinski, uh, Between Two Ages. And also, that was created, the idea of the new international economic order was created by the Trilateral Commission that was created the year I was born, 1973. That concept was created by the Trilateral Commission between David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski, and it was passed on to the United Nations by the Trilateral, and now it's law. It's an international law when it was enacted into law back in 79, I believe. The new international economic order, that's part of the United Nations sustainable agenda, and that is, in layman's term for the members of our freedom community, that is the new internet, the new world order economy, the economic version of the new world order. And it even sounds very similar, right? New international economic order, NIEO. You can see it in many of the freedom books and even the tyrannical books. They herald or they celebrate the new international economic order. That will be the law when they try to merge all of our economies together into one digital ID and social credit score digital economy, right? We know that the digital ID will cater in the the digital currency, and the digital currency will bring about the new international economic order. the social credit score that will really, that is right there, the sort of that it becomes official that we are all slaves when all of the countries in lockstep roll out rolls out digital currency, and those who do not comply to the digital currency will be left out to, they won't be able to transact. Neither you can buy or sell, just like the mark of the beast as described in the book of Revelations, that those who do not take the mark will not be able to transact. They will neither be able to buy or sell or participate in the economy unless you have the mark. That's what the book of Revelations prophesied. That is no different from the new international economic order, which is being rolled out right now, uh, with the digital ID and the digital currency. That is the social credit score economy. That's it. That is very, very compliant to the beast system, or the mark of the beast as described in prophecy. So I don't know if you remember last summer, PayPal tried to take at least $2,000 from my account, which I went to the bank. It's a good thing that I don't have a lot of money. So when they tried to take $2,000 from my account, there's no money in there, you know, uh, because I don't really have any savings at all. Everything that comes in goes right back out, and mm, the problem was it dinged me a lot of NSF fees, which is in Ontario it's around $50 per attempt of any vendor or any merchant trying to take money from your account and you don't have sufficient fund. The bank will charge you $50 per pop, and the NSF fee went up to about $500 because they tried more than 10 times. And I went to the bank and explained to them that it looks like I'm trying to take money from my bank using my PayPal account, but I assured them that I did not do it. And I said I want to file for fraud, but the bank, I guess, they don't want to step on PayPal's toes. They said, you know what, we're just gonna roll back all the NSF fees and whatever they're able to take. At least I think they were able to take $100. They rolled that back too. They canceled that, and they shut down my account and created a new one, so that because our Patreon and our people who gives stars and money on our show through Facebook, the only structure they have for me to be able to take the money off Facebook and Patreon is through PayPal. So, but they created a new account, so that it's not sort of like connected to the show. It's sort of like a secret account. Anyways, I'm not gonna go into the details, but the point is, even people who wants to get out of this usual 9 to 5 and be entrepreneurs, because I've been talking about, and if you remember my guest Mark Friesen from Saskatchewan was also talking about, part of a freedom action is to try and be entrepreneurs, try to um, sort of like work for yourselves. Is a way for us to defeat the internationalist agenda as well. Working for yourself, creating your own business, gets you out of that conundrum of requiring people to take the clot shots or whatever. Like I said last night, when I was walking around the shopping mall, I see
of the customer service, 100% of the customer service employees I saw in the shopping mall are all masked. It's almost like creating two classes. The people who were unmasked are the general public, but the servers, all of the servers, all across the board in North America, everybody who's working in the service sector are now required to wear masks while they work. Even even after we're way beyond the pandemic and way beyond knowing that the mask doesn't work. It's been documented, it's been studied. Many studied have been successfully come to the conclusion that mask doesn't work to slow the spread, right? The only time a mask would work to slow the spread is if a person is already sick and huffing and coughing, which again, the first priority for people who are already sick should stay home. But if they cannot stay home, which means just the only time they leave home when they're sick is um, they cannot have anybody to pick up their groceries, or they cannot have anybody else to pick up their prescription. Then they don't have a choice. They have to go out themselves. If they're huffing and coughing and they're sick, they cannot stay home. Then wearing a mask for already sick people would help. There's no denying that that will help. But to mask every single person who are healthy, that doesn't make sense. That's all just for compliance. That's all just for political statements. And we should not comply to that. Right? So I'm kind of going into tangent here, but let us bring back our conversation to the root. The root is the economy is being hijacked as we speak. And we're probably right now as we speak, they might be halfway through their sinister agenda rolling this out already. I don't know. So if tomorrow they said nobody's going to take your cash and or surrender all the cash that you have in your pocket, because everybody now will have to comply to the digital economy. But to participate in the digital economy, you have to have a digital ID. Having a digital ID, folks, you are giving up everything: your privacy rights, your autonomy to the metaverse, to the singularity or the hive mind. There's many names for it. In the Bible, it's called the beast system. So, anyways, I discovered that Gab, we are broadcasting on Gab TV, not broadcasting live, but we upload all of our shows to Gab TV. I think right now they're only allowing American citizens to broadcast on Gab TV. On Brighteon, we are not able to broadcast because we have to qualify for it. We can broadcast on Odyssey. We are broadcasting right now on Odyssey, on Rumble. Um, we are not able to broadcast on BitChute and brand YouTube. I think they require a certain amount of viewership before they allow the feature of broadcasting there. But that's the goal. As a goal, right now we're broadcasting on the Freedom Fighter Radio app. We are live on Freedom Fighter Radio app, and we are on Gab TV. We're not live on Gab TV, but we are on it. We have a channel on Gab TV. But I like Gab. It's not the same level, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's not the same level of freedom platform as Brighteon, because Brighteon was created by Mike Adams, who's an authentic freedom fighter. But the Gab was also created by a young entrepreneur or a young CEO. I seen a couple of his interviews. I can't remember what his name is, I'm gonna look into him again. But I remember when he first created Gab. Gab were also shadow banned in many hosting places such as Apple iTunes or Apple App Store. So initially, we heard of what happened to Parlor about 2 years ago, right? Parlor were deplatformed, and Gab at that time were being shadow banned. But recently, I launch. I never shut down my Gab, but I was not putting a lot of work into it. But very recently, about 3 weeks ago, I started putting a lot of work into Gab because I can see that when I started learning how Twitter works, I realize now that Gab and Parlor. Well, let me tell you. Let me bring up my multi tabs here. So let me see my multi tab. So Telegram is something that we are going to work on as well because there's about 500 people who sign up on our ojtv.ca uh, to download to get notification or email for download on the Freedom Fighter Radio app. And I think 85% of them gave us phone numbers so we can plug that in on our Telegram. But when Elon Musk bought Twitter, and we know that it's just a front for him to win hearts and minds, that he's pretending to be a freedom or a free speech advocate now, but we know he's not. He's not. I can tell you, folks, don't trust Elon Musk. But it's given me a little bit of leeway to share some of or criticize Facebook on Twitter. Um, so I put a little bit of work on when I started putting a little bit of work on Twitter, and now we have 515 followers on Twitter now. For a long time, it was less than 100 followers, but in this past 3-4 weeks that I started putting a lot of work on Twitter, it has increased on followers, and many of them are coming over from our Facebook followers. I now start appreciating how Twitter works, and I realize that Gab, Parlor, Getter, and Truth Social have the same kind of format. So these are the four Twitter type platforms that we are going to build in the next few years. So I call them Twitter type because they're not streaming platforms such as YouTube and Rumble, right? I call them the Twitter type. I don't know what to call them. Let's call them social media. But Facebook, when we think of social media, Facebook is sort of like the what's the word? Sort of like that's the model for most social media platforms. Facebook is the original kind of format. By the way, folks, Facebook is pretty much LifeLog, a CIA, a DARPA project. I totally believe that Facebook is pretending to be founded by Zuckerberg, but that Facebook is a project of the DARPA CIA intelligence community, in my opinion. I will talk about that. Whitney Webb on Unlimited Hangouts. You have to check her out. And I post something from Adam McLeod also exposing the collusion between the FBI, the CIA, DARPA, the intelligence community, and the social media, which for many red pillars, they are connecting the dots that these are not even private entities. These were originally created by DARPA, but by making it private or creating a mascot or a frontman to make it look like a private entity, Private corporations have things that they can do that governments can't do, right? They have a leeway, and they don't have responsibilities and obligations like governments or utilities. They can get away with the excuse that, hey, we're private, we can do whatever we want. But behind the engine, behind and the foundation for many red pillars, they are now discovering, and I believe Whitney Webb, um, Adam McLeod, many of these deep divers, like deep, um, real, phenomenal investigative journalists, they're finding out how many of these social media were created by DARPA itself. So the Twitter type platforms that we are in are Truth Social. That's our top. So for the streaming platforms, Brighteon will be our top priority to build. On the Twitter type platforms, our priority to build will be Truth Social. Next to Truth Social will be Gab, Parlor, Getter, and for our Canadian listeners, it'll be Friendevoo. It's unfortunate Friendevoo is Canadian owned and it's functional. It's not, I really want to encourage all of our Canadian listeners to open a Friendevoo account. The biggest group that I see is only like less than 2,000 members on a group there in Friendevoo. When Chris Guy was promoting Friendevoo, there was a surge of members of the freedom community opening an account on Friendevoo, but then they kind of drop off very quickly. There's not a lot of activities in Friendevoo, but the platform is functional, folks. It works for our purpose. If we want to communicate with each other without having being shadow banned and our speech being controlled, come to Friendevoo and be active on Friendevoo instead of doing your group chats and planning your group events on Facebook groups. I would really recommend Friendevoo. It's Canadian, it's local, it's functional. It's not There's not a lot of bells and whistles. It's a little difficult to go live on Friendevoo. There's not a functionality where I can plug in a third party such as StreamYard on Friendevoo. But overall, I would say Friendevoo is functional. So if we rate all of our Twitter type platforms that Freedom Fighter Radio is in right now, I would say Truth Social is our top priority. Next is Friendevoo. We are on Gab. Then we are on Parlor and Getter, right? So those are the platforms that we are going to build. We'll keep our Twitter and our Facebook just so that we can tell those or our listeners and our followers who hasn't opened their Truth Social, Friendevoo, Gab, Parlor, and Getter accounts just yet, that whenever we're on, we are going to notify them by putting a little bit of something on Twitter and Facebook. By 2024, we are going to use Twitter and Facebook as just sort of like a notification platform where we put a little bit, a 30-second snippet of the full episode of our videos and our broadcasts on Twitter and Facebook. But we're not going to put any more of our full broadcast on those platforms. But the most important right now is really to download the app. Sign up at ojtv.ca, download the app, listen to the app, because that's really the full production is on the app, the radio app. We're also going to fire up our Telegram, and recently I opened a WhatsApp, but WhatsApp is also owned by Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but I never work on Instagram. I don't know. Instagram doesn't really appeal to me, folks. It's more, and that's an entertainment kind of platform. So in terms of streaming platform, our top priority would be Brighteon. Next will be Rumble. We're on Gab TV. Actually, I would put Gab TV ahead of Rumble. But right now, we have traction on Rumble. We're on Odyssey, BitChute,
and brand new too. And we are working on Rufkin. Rufkin will be ultimately our replacement for well, the original plan is to replace our Patreon with Rufkin. The only thing is it's quite a learning curve how to open a the what do you call this again, the crypto wallet. They require opening a crypto wallet to open a broadcaster's account on Rufkin, which is free. I'm not familiar with crypto yet. And I know a lot of people were saying, "Hey, crypto, stay away from crypto because that's very similar to the New World Order social credit score digital currency, because they both function in what you call blockchain." And for a while, I was in the same belief system, but now I'm realizing, folks, there's a big difference between this private cryptocurrency and the digital currency that the governments or the BIS is trying to roll out. The BIS, or the world governments, as they roll out the digital currency of the New World Order, it's very centralized. And to know that it's centralized, and to know that the private cryptocurrencies such as what's the Bitcoin, right? That's the biggest name in crypto. Bitcoin. The Bitcoin types apparently is actually going to be a kryptonite to the social credit score, because these private crypto types such as Bitcoin, I'm not big on it, that's why I'm not familiar, but I really need to make it my responsibility to learn more about it, because apparently many freedom podcasters are talking about that this is actually a kryptonite to the digital currency of the BIS, because this is decentralized. So Bitcoin and many of their competitors, I think Ethereum is it, and many others, there are many communities creating their own crypto platform. It is decentralized, therefore it will kryptonite against the digital currency of the governments. It's what I'm learning. I'm brand new to it, but I remember I have a financial background, folks, so I understand anything that is going against the grain of the central banks and the fiat money system that we are into. Anything that is not complying to that general thought, in my opinion, is actually a kryptonite against the digital credit, the digital ID, and the digital currency that the technocrats, the tyrants, the internationalists, the social engineers are rolling out. Don't go, folks. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back after these short messages.
We have a brand new podcast in collaboration with one of our very important collaborators. So without much further ado, I would like to introduce our main collaborator for a brand new podcast, Enemies of the State, the New World Order. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Doru Gordon.
Yes, and to put it simply, the recipe is always there. Create a crisis. You have to present there is a crisis in society. In order for the state to go bigger and to grow, you always have to threaten people or to instill fear. You have to be fearful of greedy capitalists or the greedy businessman who wants to take money away from you.
Imagine that the power grid was totally wiped by an EMP weapon of an enemy state. Your stress level will go to the roof, your patience will be tried, you will have to think about both your own and your complaining children's survival. If you don't survive, your children won't when they are left on their own. Teach your children how to have the mentality of being survivors through a fun, children-friendly guided outdoor adventures with basic survivor mindfulness integrated in the fun outing activity. Call my friends Ornell and Victoria who are experienced survivors. Call them at 905-252-8009 or email them at northernpacificcottages@gmail.com. A disturbing news. Doctors administer certain drugs even after the family have rejected it. Why? Because hospitals can charge $3,000 a pop for it. Meanwhile, they hid the fact that cheaper alternatives are available and it only costs cents. Do you know if you are paying the right price for your current prescription? Have you researched if there are cheaper yet equally effective alternatives? Call Shinlaza Pharmaceuticals at 1-800-206-0051 or email at info@shinlaza.com for a free consultation. Shinlaza Pharmaceuticals is owned and operated by a freedom fighter of the Freedom Community in Ontario.
Hello, friends. I am Derek Sloan, the leader of the Ontario Party. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Canada podcast, only here on The Ordinary Joe Show.
Cafe Freedom on a Friday morning. It's the 3rd of March, 2023. It's 11:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. Cafe Freedom, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Coming to you live from the heart of the Great White North, the heart of the true North, strong and free from coast to coast to coast, all across Canada, United States, and the rest of the world. So, folks, we were talking about parallel economy just before the break. And I was talking about how we have Patreon ever since first quarter 2021. And I've been sort of praying and asking the Lord, why have we not got so much success on Patreon, where, by design, I actually set our entry level to be a Patreon donor at $3 a month, which is less than a cup of Starbucks coffee, folks, if you want to fund the truth. I thought that thousands of our members of our freedom community would respond to that call. And so recently I brought that to, instead of $3 a month, I brought that down to $1.50. Well, that's US, but that's just maybe a toonie, $2 Canadian, right? So maybe we'll get some traction for that new call to action, since we brought it down from $3 US to $2 to $1.50 US, which is technically I would say $2 a toonie, Canadian toonie per month. But come to think of it, I guess the reason now, in my opinion, the reason that we were not having a lot of traction on that campaign is that we are still on Patreon. And Patreon is no different from PayPal, which decidedly they are going to silence or defund or slow down any movement that's gaining traction towards freedom. They're going to shut it down. So similar to what happened in February with our Freedom Convoy, when Tamerlich launched this fundraising, but she did it on GoFundMe. I guess I'm realizing, it's a blessing in disguise, because what if we have the same kind of traction what Tamerlich had accomplished back in February 2022
when $20 million of Canadian money flowed into the GoFundMe, and then it got shut down anyways, and none of the truckers have received. Remember, the trucker convoy and the GoFundMe that was launched by Tamara Lich to fund the truckers, or the Freedom Convoy 2022 fundraiser, was supposed to fund the individual truckers that participated in the big event in February, right? That was the purpose of that GoFundMe. But not even one trucker, well, let's not say that. There's actually other fundraisers. I heard that Triad Eros was talking to us about some cash also were donated, and they were left on a table up in the Arc Hotel in Ottawa, where people were just dropping cash on a desk. That's why they were forced to buy a what do you call this thing? You know, the locker thing. I don't remember what it's called. You know, where you lock the cash in there, safety deposit box. And just imagine if we have that same kind of traction, but then because we use the woke or the internationalist platform, and then they take away the money from us after, you know, thousands of people respond to our Patreon call. Just imagine, then that will be the end of the Freedom Fighter Radio, because people will never trust Freedom Fighter Radio ever again if people have responded in the thousands, but then Patreon takes away the money, just like how they try and do that for the GoFundMe in February. So because of that, I'm starting to look at all other alternative platforms, and I discovered this other Patreon type called GabPay app. So I don't know what it is. I just recently discovered it. I'm about to embark on learning what it is, but I think, what do you guys think? Is Gab a trustworthy place? So I'm not 100% with Gab yet, but like I said, you know, Truth Social is our top priority with the Twitter type freedom platforms. You know, free speech platforms. I would say Truth Social is our top one. Next will be Friendivu, and Gab will be our third. The reason I say that, also for Rumble, right? So on our streaming, I said earlier today that Brighteon will be top. Rumble and Gab will be second to the top. But when we get Rofkin in place, Rofkin will be our second to Brighteon. But the reason I don't trust 100% Gab and Rumble, I will tell you why. Because I used to work in that sector. I used to work in Bay Street in Canada, in the financial sector of our financial industry. And Rumble is a publicly listed company. And the danger, well, I don't know if is Truth Social publicly listed, or that's 100% owned by Donald Trump. I'm not sure about that. But every time a platform is publicly listed, I think it's open to risk of being taken over by the same tyrannical technocrats that we are trying to avoid. Whitney Webb and Adam McLeod, check it out. I posted one of Adam McLeod's articles on. Let me go do that right now. I posted it 2 or 3 days ago on our Facebook page, and also on Gab and Truth Social. But I'm trying to look for it. Let me go to Truth Social. Here, Meet the ex-CIA agent deciding Facebook's content policy by Alan McLeod. Sorry, it's not Adam, it's Alan. Alan McLeod. So you gotta check out this publication called the MR Online website. It's a very reliable truth blog, news blogger site. And anybody that Whitney Webb, the founder, the author of Unlimited Hangouts, anybody that she would recommend, I would trust. Because she is our modern day Alex Jones, I would say. And she's even she dives deep in places where other freedom podcasters have not divin before. How do you say the past participle of dove before? There you go. Many deep divers have not dove before. Whitney Webb, I would say, have that kind of ability to research things that are. I think she is one of the most important person instrumental in exposing the Jeffrey Epstein saga, the Jeffrey Epstein operations. The way Jeff Epstein is only one, the Jeff Epstein style types, the socialites, the socialite types, they go and infiltrate top elected politicians so that they can have something on them and something that they can blackmail them. And come to think of it, I'm thinking that Marilyn Monroe would probably be one of those that are Jeffrey Epstein style types now. Because remember how she warmed up to John Kennedy. I don't know what I think about John Kennedy just yet, folks. We know that he wouldn't have been assassinated if he was on the side of the technocrats. But John Kennedy's lifestyle and his being a Democrat is questionable. But at the end, John and his brother Bobby Kennedy, even though they were Democrats, back in those days, I guess, just like here in Canada, how we had the classical liberals, they're not as the classic liberals. I think we could honestly say that the Liberal Party before Justin Trudeau, or even before Jean Chrétien, the classic liberals are probably 100 times better than the new conservatives of today. When it comes to how far left they have gone, the classic liberals are not as far left as the Conservative Party of Canada today. What do you guys think? So I stated on Wednesday morning Cafe Freedom that I stand with Laurelyn Tyler Thompson and Leslyn Lewis. I stand with Christine Anderson, even after Pierre Poilievre have thrown many of us freedom lovers in this country under the bus by calling Christine Anderson racist. Apologies, folks. I didn't realize that we had a lot of comments here on our dashboard. Hey, Melissa. Good morning. Melissa is in the house. And let me do some shout out here on some people who have tuned in. Leanne Sophie, Harvey Bellows, Lee Armstrong, Chris O'Connor, Scott Hammonds, Glenda Prisner, Maggie O'Leary, and James Adams, and many more that we can only see 10 at a time on our dashboard here. Many more who have responded and reacted to our morning show. Thank you for all those who have tuned in. Share, folks. So go to our Truth Social. Gab or Friendly Boo, I've shared a screenshot of. This is a little old. It was July 14, 2022. The reason I posted this is Whitney Webb was talking about this on her recent podcast, that Alan McLeod, before all of these Twitter files became public knowledge, that the FBI were in collusion with Twitter before the old Twitter, before Elon Musk bought Twitter up. Alan McLeod, back in July 14, 2022, has already been talking about CIA and FBI's collusion with social media. Actually, there's not this specific article, but another one. But this is the one I have in front of me. So it's not July 14, 2022 when he talked about the collusion, but this is one other article that lines up with the expose that Alan McLeod had started exposing. But go to MR Online and look at this article by Alan McLeod all the way back in July 12, 2022. Meet the ex-CIA agent deciding Facebook's content policy. And he was talking about this guy who looks like a very benign, very friendly. I forgot what's his name. I have his picture in front of me, but I forgot his name because I don't have the article in front of me. Oh, actually, I can just right click on it. And the name of the guy is Aaron. Aaron. What's his last name? But he was one of the top CIA operatives. And he became Facebook's director on, what is allowed and not allowed on Facebook. He was an ex-CIA agent. Aaron identifies himself as the manager of the team that writes the rules for Facebook, determining what is acceptable and what is not. Thus, he and his team effectively decides what content the platform's 2.9 billion active users see and what they don't see. Well, you just have to go to our. I can't. Aaron Berman, that's his last name. Aaron Berman. In his 15-year career, Aaron Berman rose to become a highly influential part of the CIA. For years, he prepared and edited the presidents of the United States Daily Brief, writing and overseeing intelligence analysis to enable the president and the senior U.S. officials to make decisions on the most critical national security issues, especially on the impact of influence operations on social movements, security, and democracy. You can still find Aaron Berman on LinkedIn, and if you read his profile, it shows how deep Aaron was in the CIA community. And Aaron looks like he's only like 20 something, folks. He doesn't even look like a 30-year-old man. He looks like he's maybe 27, 28. And he was a top CIA agent, now deciding Facebook's content policy. So check that out. I totally trust Whitney Webb, and Whitney Webb trust Alan McLeod, who wrote this article on the MR Online website. So trying to get back to the roots of our conversation, free speech platform, it's not enough that we embark on building our speech, our productions on free speech platform, but we also have to build freedom monetary platforms. So honestly, Patreon's not one of them, but as of now, Patreon is the only place we are in. We also have subscription on Facebook, but one of our pages have been demonetized. So I will be inviting the patrons or our donors on one of our Facebook platforms, giving monthly to the show. But since we've been demonetized on one of our Facebook pages, they're not able to give their monthly support to the show through Facebook. So I'm going to invite them to Patreon, because we are on Patreon until we find an alternative. But we're not going to be on Patreon forever. So I'm thinking that's the reason that the Lord didn't allow us to flourish on Patreon, because if we end up getting like thousands of supporters sign up on our Patreon, and then eventually Patreon just kind of cancel them out or sequester the money, then that's the end of our endeavor to continue with Freedom Podcasting. So that I would say that's a blessing in disguise. Do you guys, don't you guys think that I'm possibly saying something truthful here regarding that? So I'm looking at this alternative, but the only problem is Gab has a lot of limitations on Canadian users of the platform. The even last year when I was trying to create a Gab TV account, it was not available for Canadians. It was only for Americans at that time. But only recently did I find out that we can actually now the restriction was lifted. Canadians can now maintain a Gab TV channel. And so we do have a Gab TV channel. We cannot go live on it just yet, but we do upload every episode. Soon as we get off live, we upload the episode to our Gab TV channel. But let me introduce to you. At the same time, I'm learning it together. Let's learn this together, and I would like, because this is the People's Radio, I would like the inputs of our listeners on what you think about this, because I'm thinking that this might be a good replacement for our Patreon. I know that if we go on Rufkin, if we launch our Rufkin, we will essentially be able to replace Patreon through Rufkin. And the other idea is to what I heard, but it's mostly Americans who use the Locals that is tied up on Rumble. Locals is an American platform as well. I heard that you can both blog and also have a Patreon type supporter platform there on Locals. But for today, I'm looking at this parallel economy that is being touted by GabPay, the GabPay app. Well, let me read to you their FAQs. And so I really want your input on this, folks, because I don't know if this should be a replacement for our Patreon. It says here, welcome to Parallel Economy. What is GabPay app? The new GabPay app is a person-to-person payment network in the parallel economy. And I like how they use parallel economy. I like that. Because I guess that we really need to create our own parallel economy if we are going to continue on living on the planet, and they would banish the rest of us non-compliants out of the banking system, right? And for all of our American listeners, one person you need to look into as an example of being banished from the banking system is one of the freedom voices in Canada. His name is Jeremy Mackenzie, a veteran who has been debanked by his bank in Nova Scotia, Bank of Nova Scotia. He was debanked for participating in the Freedom Convoy and being a a voice in the freedom movement in Canada. What is GabPay app? The new GabPay app is a person-to-person payment network in the parallel economy. GabPay users can participate in the parallel economy and complete financial transactions as well as offer commercial payments options using the service. GabPay allows users to instantly transfer money from nearly any bank account in the United States to anyone or any business with a cell phone or email. So it looks like it's very similar to PayPal, isn't it? The only thing though is, you know what, I've been thinking also. I want to get your input and your opinion on this, Freedom Fighter Radio listeners, because I'm thinking of approaching many what do you call that again? Union banks? Sorry, credit unions. Uh, I'm thinking of approaching credit unions in Ontario and give them free ad spots for 30 days on our platform to create a relationship and tell them that we are going to start pushing credit unions to our listeners as an alternative to banks. I think so. I believe the big banks, if I can remember my CSC course, the big banks are called Schedule 1 banks, right? Like the CIBCs and the TDs and the Royal Banks. They're all called Schedule 1 banks. So they are the mainstream banking institutions. But the credit unions have limitations, at the same time have abilities that they can do that the Schedule 1 banks can't do. Because for the most part, I think credit unions are sort of like off the grid kind of banking. Off the grid banking. And I'm trying to remember, there was, if you watch the series called The Man from the High Castle, the depiction of alternative scenario when instead of the Allied forces winning the Second World War, it was the Nazis who won the Second World War. And there was a concept in that TV series where the dissidents or the freedom fighters were actually financed by an underground banking operation. So one of the wealthy supporters of the freedom movement created a bank unique for the freedom fighters. That is a unique concept that I never thought of, but well, I think there's something to that we need to explore. Okay, back to GabPay. How does it work? The app is simple in nature. Transfer funds from a bank account, hold a balance, send and spend with any other user, receive instantly or cash the amount you have out to nearly any financial institution in the USA. Yes, we said instant. All transactions on the app are instant and final with no chargebacks. What does it cost? We know money is important to you. Sign up is 100% free of charge. We add a small fee of 1.9% plus 15 cents when you transact. You help support the network and the new parallel economy. See, I like that parallel economy concept. You can choose to have the other party pay or split it. What about outside the US? Since we are in the United States, we began this project at home. We expect to expand into 140 plus countries starting in early 2023. Well, this is the year, right? This is the year that they are going to expand into 140 countries. And when the United States start expanding, where do you think they first expand to? Their neighbors at the north, here in Canada. So it says here, we expect to expand into 140 plus countries starting in early 2023. reaching several billion people and businesses. We will bring this to your country. It will depend on each country's laws. Since this operates across the banking network, it will be up to the regulators where you live. Well, that now I see a little bit of problem there because the regulators are all internationalists. Anyways, let's continue perusing this gabpay.com app. Here's another section on their um, website. How do I sign up? Users in the US can now register for free and begin processing transactions. You can deposit funds from your bank account and make payments, receive money, and withdraw with ease. Merchants can accept payments without the fear of chargebacks, indefinite holds, or reprisals for political beliefs. If you are a business that needs to accept credit cards, click here for information on our dedicated merchant accounts. Click on this link. Well, sounds good, folks. It's not perfect, but I would say this is a good alternative to PayPal, in my opinion. But it's not quite the replacement for Patreon. It doesn't have the feature to. However, if they are going to create this platform or this app exactly how PayPal functions, I know that PayPal has the monthly donor feature as well, which is similar to Patreon, right? So if they are going to if they have created this GabPay exactly as PayPal, then it would have the feature of accepting regular, recurring donation from supporters of the show. And so this could be a good alternative or a replacement for our Patreon. However, it is not yet available in Canada, but it might soon be available in Canada starting this year, 2023. So we're going to keep an eye on this, but I think before this happens, I think our next best option as an alternative to our Patreon would be if I'm able to relaunch our Rofkin. We have been accepted. I haven't launched Rofkin, but now it's coming into full view now. Now I'm starting to understand why Rofkin require the crypto wallet as part of their requirement to be a broadcaster on Rofkin. Folks, Rofkin is where I found Whitney Webb of Unlimited Hangouts. Well, let me just go there. I'll tell you who are some of the important voices of the freedom movement. They're mostly Americans. I don't see a lot of Canadian. I don't see a lot of American freedom broadcasters on Rofkin. So for us, applying for Rofkin and they're accepting our application to broadcast on Rofkin is a big deal for me. The only thing is when I was being asked by, I got an email from Rofkin asking me, when are you going to set up your account because you're already being approved? And I said, I got to look into this crypto wallet that you are requiring. I need to, just find a day where I can just look into cryptocurrency and understand it. Because right now I have 1% knowledge on cryptocurrency. I don't know much about cryptocurrency, folks. I honestly don't. But let me tell you some of the very important voices that are hosted on Rofkin. David Knight used to be a Infowar broadcaster. Jason Burmas, I follow this guy. He's very good. From time to time, he also broadcasts on Band.video. Jay Dyer, he is one of the most important voices in the freedom movement because Jay Dyer is the academia insider, and he is very methodical in his research. You have to listen to his long analysis. The name of his YouTube channel is Jay's Analysis. Jay Dyer is very deep into research. He is very, very intelligent, very smart, very important research on Carol Quigley's book. What's the name of Carol Quigley's book again? It'll come to me. I can't remember it right now. But he also deep dives on many of the science fiction genre Hollywood movies and how it is. I can't wait for Jay Dyer to do an analysis on Black Mirror. He did an analysis on Stranger Things. And he also is the one that I got the information regarding Hollywood and the Rand Corporation in collusion with the CIA has pushed all of these propaganda on Hollywood films. And his deep research on H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, those who are the founding fathers of the science fiction genre on Hollywood movies, right? Anyways, Jay Dyer's on Rofkin. So these are the very important voices on Rofkin: David Knight, Jason Burmas, Jay Dyer, Paul Joseph Watson is on Rofkin. And again, one of my very favorite freedom podcasters, and these are all Americans. You haven't heard me mention any Canadians here yet. Maybe I will be the first Canadian on Rofkin. I just really need to learn how to do the crypto wallet. Unlimited Hangouts by Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb is a very important voice in the freedom community worldwide. Whitney Webb, very important key person in exposing the Jeffrey Epstein operations. So, yeah, Rofkin, if we're able to launch our Rofkin, that would be essentially a very good replacement for Patreon. And now I'm understanding why Rofkin is requiring crypto wallet, right? So, for example, we just read the description of GabPay, the GabPay app. And, well, essentially, GabPay is still kind of tied up to the traditional banking system, what we call here in Canada Schedule 1 banks. Schedule 1 banks are the TDs, the bank BMOs, the Royal Bank of Canada, Bank of Nova Scotia, Scotiabank. These are the Schedule 1 banks. But GabPay, originating from the United States, GabPay is similar to PayPal, except PayPal has gone woke, so it will go broke. PayPal, guys, remember PayPal have made that statement that anybody who they deem to be misinformation, disinformation platform on social media, that they will charge anybody who has a platform, social media, that says things that are against their narrative, that they will ding them $5,000 in fines. Who do they think they are, right? Who do they think they are? Who gave them permission or authority to be fining or giving fines of $5,000 US? And they tried that on me last summer, as many of you can remember. So looking at GabPay here, this is a great alternative to PayPal. You got to look into gabpay.com. If you want to continue to transact with each other, I would recommend GabPay now versus PayPal. The only thing it is still kind of tied up with the Schedule 1 banks, as I call them, or we call them in Canada. Schedule 1 banks, the mainstream banking system. So now looking at this, it is now kind of creating a very clear understanding in my mind why Rofkin requires a crypto wallet. Because the only thing missing to a platform like GabPay is if GabPay starts allowing people to send money or transact with each other using crypto wallets, right? Then now you are totally off the grid. If you have a GabPay platform, because people in the crypto world, they have different platforms. So some people have Bitcoin, and some people create their own crypto system. I believe Infowars have their own crypto um, currency. So the decentralized cryptocurrencies, you can only transact with people who are also subscribed to that cryptocurrency. This is what I again, folks. I might be saying something that is not true here, because as a disclaimer, I will reiterate, I am not well versed on cryptocurrency. The only thing that I know for sure is that cryptocurrency is decentralized. Yes, it is using uh, the blockchain, the blockchain technology, the blockchain technology of cryptocurrency is limited to the currency itself, right? So basically, what does that mean? Is that the blockchain is like an open source where everybody knows where the money goes, who, or let me say it this way: every unit of the currency is ledgered or monitored in a way where that's how you know that money is accounted for, because every cent or every dollar or every coin in a cryptocurrency system is accounted for who owns what. But when you blockchain the entire economy, if you create a crypto for the entire country, a centralized crypto economy, the problem with that is the crypto economy is tied to a digital ID, that it does not only in the independent or decentralized cryptocurrency, it follows the money. But in the social credit score uh, digital currency agenda of the globalists, it is following the person. The person is the blockchain unit, not the money. That's the difference. In the crypto world of the bitcoins and all of these other decentralized cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology allows to ledger and follow where the money goes. So it is constantly monitoring the money. To be honest, that's fine by me. So that everybody knows who owns what in terms of where the coins are. And that's how you maintain good currency, is by blockchaining all of the currency, where currency goes, who transact what, right? However, your identity, I believe in the crypto world, you create an account, right? And your account is, it belongs to you, but the account itself is the unit that goes around transacting in the crypto world, as opposed to the digital currency of the globalist. You are the account, your person is the account, because what the government wants to do is verify you as you, by making sure that it could be your DNA signature or your biometrics that verifies that you are you, but then you become your account. In the social credit score world, you have to be your account. So you are monitored all the time. Your privacy is monitored. Actually, no privacy. You're always 24/7 accounted for. So that's the difference between the cryptocurrency, independent cryptocurrency, and the digital currency that the governments want to create. So, folks, we're about to end the morning broadcast here. Last segment after the break. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Just because it's a seller's market, it does not mean that it's not a good time for you, the buyer, to get into your dream home. The seller's market presents a unique opportunity not available during the buyer's market. Find out for yourself. Get the professional advice of an experienced, honest, Christian freedom-loving real estate professional. Call my friend, our sister in the fight for freedom, Madam Cheryl Severance of Century 21 at 905-646-2121, or check out her website at cheryl-severance.c21.ca.
Fund the truth. Fund the unacceptable fringe views of the Freedom Fighter radio broadcast. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada and also donate $3 per month and help us keep going and pushing back against the lies, the hate, and the fear-mongering of the legacy media. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Your $3 per month will help us set fire on the lies of the tyrants, the technocrats, and the internationalist social engineers. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada.
Did you hear about the children's cough syrup shelves? They are mostly empty in the drugstores. Are you concerned? Do you feel the need to stockpile? As the world heads towards uncertainty, with every nation meeting its own challenges, Larks Medical are staged and ready to respond. Go to larksmedical.com. Provide them with your name, phone number, and email, and Larks will respond at their earliest possible availability to find solutions and ensure ample supply for your needs. Or email them directly at info@larksmedical.com. That's info@larksmedical.com.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary, the leader of the Independence Party of Alberta. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Immediately out! Immediately go out and don't come back!
And this is the last segment on our Friday morning broadcast here on Freedom Fighter Radio Cafe Freedom. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Technically 9:30 a.m. We started late this morning. We started almost 10 o'clock. But I know that our friends will be forgiving. And this is still a one-man production. Hey, I saw a funny comment here from our sister Melissa Macron, listening in live today from Barrie, Ontario. Melissa was saying, Whitney Webb's voice though? Ha! I can't. Yeah, true. True, I understand, Melissa. Whitney Webb's voice is not that of a broadcaster or a podcaster. But she is very deep in her research. Very, very good researcher. Investigative journalist. Way better than those highly paid investigative journalists of the legacy media, I would say. Well, if you cannot stand Whitney Webb's voice, I would recommend read her vlogs or blogs, on the Unlimited Hangout website. Very, very informative website. But today you can add on your freedom diet when you are where's that when you are consuming your freedom information one additional website you can add on to your freedom diet of consuming information is MR Online. MR Online website. And look specifically for Alan McLeod, who has exposed many of this collusion of social media big tech giants with the intelligence community, the CIA, the FBI, especially DARPA. And if you have time, take a look into this project, DARPA project called LifeLog. A lot of people, a lot of red-pilled, deep researchers believe that Facebook was created of the DARPA's LifeLog project, because everything in LifeLog is what you see on Facebook right now. And you know what? I do not doubt it. I believe that. I believe that theory. Yes, it's a conspiracy theory because, there might not be a concrete evidence, but it only takes a person of keen and diligent paying attention. If you're paying attention, very close attention, then I would think you would see how easy that you can connect the dots, what's going on here, folks. So you've been listening to Cafe Freedom. It's 12:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been a fun Cafe Freedom morning. Audio style radio broadcasting. We don't have video working today. Well, let's do it this way. Maybe next week we'll do an alternate. Next week I'm gonna turn on the camera. I'll do video while I'm doing Cafe Freedom, so you can see me for our Rumble live stream. Because right now we're getting more traction on Rumble and Odyssey. We're heavily shadow banned on Facebook. And again, guys, do you know why we are heavily shadow banned? I think, well, I'm guessing. Just 3 days ago, I also posted my question on Facebook. When is Facebook, now that the congressional hearings are now exposing the truth that social media is in 100% collusion with the FBI and the CIA, when will Facebook be apologizing to the truth speakers on this platform? I put a post the other day, and since then, oh man, we feel the effect immediately, instant effect of that very unafraid confrontation statement or question to Facebook. Facebook silence us some more. But don't you worry, folks. We have a runaround. We have secret weapons how to go around their algorithms, and we're doing it. So you might see that our live are heavily shadow banned, but not our post. Not our post. We're still making a lot of traction on post. Well, there you go, folks. The way we can overcome, another way to overcome the live shadow banning or the live broadcast is to know when we go live, because you won't get any notification because of the shadow banning. But if you know when we're going live, then you can overcome that. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Cafe Freedom, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. From coast to coast to coast, I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. You've been listening to Cafe Freedom. We'll see you again Monday morning. Freedom Fighter Radio is Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. By the way, we're cooking up a new Freedom panel March 19th is our next group discussion on the Freedom Panel. And as usual, we are going to try and have participants from 3 or 4 different provinces all across Canada for the Freedom Panel. Eventually, we are going to integrate American participants as well into the Freedom Panel. And we might change the Freedom Panel to the Freedom Roundtable podcast. We'll see how it goes. Hey, I like this one. I like this little no copyright. We can only play no copyright music here on social media, so that they don't block our broadcast. But they will find a way. They will find a way to block our broadcast. Many other reasons. But for now, this no copyright calm jazz mix that I downloaded from YouTube is serving us well. Folks, you've been listening to Cafe Freedom on a Friday morning. Shalom Shabbat. We won't have any broadcast tonight because we purposely have scheduled our nighttime broadcasting on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, so that we don't have to infringe on our Shabbat, our Sabbath, that starts on sundown every Friday night. Tomorrow is Sabbath. I hope that you will all have a good Sabbath. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. You've been listening to Cafe Freedom right here on the Freedom Fighter Radio. Only here on the Ordinary Joe. I'm looking forward to have you here again on our next Cafe Freedom, Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, next Monday. Have a good weekend. Have a good Sabbath. God bless you all. Shalom, shalom, shalom. We'll see you again next time. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Cafe Freedom, only here on the Ordinary Joe. God bless you. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.